Man, I'm tired.
You won't be for long.
Why?
Check your watch.
Oh my gosh, it's MidKnights.
Let's do this thing.
Welcome, everybody. 107.9 FM, WWPH Princeton Junction. It's me, Julian Morgan, alone here in the studio today. It's Morgan on MidKnights on a Monday morning. How many M's can we possibly get today? Anyways, just going to be me in the studio for just a little bit of time today, but enough to give you everything that happened this weekend, give a little bit of updates on some local stuff, some stuff from across the country, across the world. Speaking of across the world, I've been taking a look recently at some of the fastest growing languages, the ones that have really been ramping up recently. The learning of languages in general, it's skyrocketed in recent years. It's doubled. The population has doubled since 1970. So learning all these new languages, being able to communicate with more people is becoming more popular. 43% of the global population is now bilingual. People say it helps in the professional world. People say it just helps with understanding cultures and just helps with being able to communicate. So English is always quickly growing. One that surprised me was Portuguese, one of the Romance languages along with Spanish, French, Italian, but one that typically goes under the radar, but in Portugal and Brazil, where it's spoken, obviously really highly populated countries. Some others are Arabic, Urdu, Chinese, Hindi, Korean, Spanish, and French. So if you're looking to learn a new language, these are some that might be good for you. We're going to take a break. Morgan on MidKnights, 107.9 FM, WWPH, The Great 108. Stay tuned for more in just a second.
I got a station full of 10. I got a station and it's all full of 107.9. So divine. Wish I could listen anytime and always. They got music DJs that will amaze. It's no fake.
Take me away.
The best station.
A sweet escape. Take me away.
Get taken away to the best station, 107.9 FM WWPH in Princeton Junction.
It started off as a normal day. I felt fine when I arrived at the plant.
Ruth Junius's life was about to change.
Then I dropped my keys. They kept slipping out of my hand. My arm felt numb. A coworker asked me if I was okay, and I couldn't speak. I started to get scared.
Ruth was having a stroke. People around her weren't sure what to do.
They thought I should go home or lie down, but I knew something was very wrong. I wrote 911 on a piece of paper with my other hand, and someone called for me.
Because everyone acted quickly, doctors at the hospital were able to give Ruth treatment that started to reverse the symptoms.
Within a few minutes, I was talking again. I didn't know a thing about stroke before I had one. Now I make sure that my friends and family know all the signs of stroke so they'll get help fast if they need it.
No stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. Call 1-800-352-9424 for more information. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health.
What's up, bro? Oh, yo, nothing much. What you doing? I'm just listening to 107.9 FM, WPH in Princeton Junction, the greatest radio station ever. Nice.
Morgan on MidKnights. That first one was a more. It wasn't just me stuttering on my name, although it did sound like it. Welcome back to the Great 108. Those are some problems you have when you've got so many M's in one sitting, but we're back here on MidKnights. Morgan on MidKnights here on this Monday morning. So I am a big foodie. You might not know this about me. I don't get to talk too much about my food love, but my family and I, we all really like food, and we try and do kind of fun trips where we get to go to different places, try different foods. So one of the things we did was we did a bagel taste test in Manhattan. Now, if you're in the West Windsor, Plainsboro area, if you're in the metropolitan area in general, then you'll know that A, it's pretty easy to get to New York. Well, somewhat easy to get to New York if you're close to a train station. But B, is that New York's known for their bagels. So we actually went in. We did a rating of some of the best bagel places throughout the borough. And then I cross-referenced that. Well, first when we went, we cross-referenced it with a list. But then afterwards, I cross-referenced it again. So here are some of the top bagel places in Manhattan. I'm going to give you the scores that my family gave them, and then also just the scores that the article gave. So this was an infatuation article. The first one they had was Absolute Bagels. Now, everybody in my family ranked this the third best bagel in Manhattan. The infatuation gave it an 8.9. Basically, it's special because of the subtle sweetness combined with the garlicky exterior. What you'll come to learn throughout this series is that there are just some bagels that are better than others and you can't exactly explain it, this is not one of those cases. It has a very distinct taste, but it's a taste that people really enjoy. Next one is Russ and Daughters. It did not rank in any of our top threes. The Infatuation gave it an 8.8. Now, listen, this is a bagel for anybody who prefers theirs to be chewier. I like crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside. If you go to Russ and Daughters, here's where I think things went wrong. When you go to Russ and Daughters, you have to get fish. Russ and Daughters is known for their fish and for their pastries, and to be fair in our bagel taste test, we only did a plain bagel with cream cheese. So I think the lack of fish didn't help our score, but if you go to Russ and Daughters and you're in the mood for like smoked salmon or whatever fish you like to put on your bagel, this is probably a place you go. Next up is Tompkins Square. We actually didn't go to this one. Once again, probably for the following reason. We did plain bagel with cream cheese. Tompkins Squares are known for their bagel sandwiches. So if you're looking for a bacon, egg, and cheese, apparently this one has the best in the city. This did not have a score by the Infatuation, by the way, but they did want to put it on there. H&H Bagels. This was the first one we went to. It did not rank in our top three. The Infatuation did not rank it either. They use lots of cream cheese when assembling your bagel. This is actually not the reason we didn't like it. Just something to know. This is also a chewier bagel, so not as much as that crunch on the outside, which I think is something that is pretty important to a bagel. So next up is Essa Bagel. Every member of my family except for myself put this at number 1. The Infatuation did not rank it. I put it at number 2, by the way, so even though I didn't have it as my best, really, really good bagel. These are large bagels, the largest by far we had. Very crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside. There's no really any of that subtle sweetness, which I think is a win. If you have somewhat of a subtle sweetness, I guess that's okay, but I would just prefer without it. I think a bagel is typically something more savory unless you're really aiming for a sweeter kind of bagel. Finally, my number 1, the rest of my family's number 2. Tall bagels, also not rated by the Infatuation. I say this has the most contrast between a chewier outside and a chewier inside and a crispier, crunchier outside, which is something I really like. And it's a really good complement for cream cheese. This is something I tried to analyze a lot when we did this trip, was how do they balance? And I think it balances really well. We're going to be right back on more Midnights. Morgan on Midnights coming up in just a second. Stay tuned for more on the Divine 107.9.
Happy 107.9 FM games, and may the odds ever be in your favor.
I volunteer as tribute.
It looks like we have a volunteer to be the most devoted listener at 107.9 FM. Do you have anything to say to the people?
You will only be able to survive your battles by tuning into 107.9 FM at Princeton Junction.
One in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
Morgan on Midnights, 107.9 FM, WWPH, Princeton Junction. Now, I will say, you're listening to the Zoot Suit Riot in the background. If you know swing dancing, if you're a fan of kind of older forms of dance, you definitely know the song. Definitely not the genre of song I was going for in the background of this talk, but it'll do. I went to see Morgan Wallen on Saturday. Now, whether or not you're a country fan, that's not exactly what I want to talk about here, just in general. First of all, it was a great show, so if you are a country fan and you have the opportunity to see him, I highly recommend it. It was the largest country show ever at MetLife Stadium and in the New York, New Jersey area, which is pretty crazy to think about. My problem more stands with the traffic. Now, I drove there, and if you live in this area, you know that traffic's nothing new, but this is one of the first times when I really realized that it could be a problem. Well, more of a problem than it already is. Now, obviously, traffic is where the most accidents happen. You have to be extremely careful during traffic, but if you grow up in this area, you kind of get familiar with it when it happens in places like the GW or when it happens near the Lincoln Tunnel or the Holland Tunnel. You don't think about it unless it's a game day near MetLife, but that causes so many other problems because now traffic's backed up because MetLife and Fort Lee and the George Washington Bridge are not that far away from each other, so you really and the way that the road, like the turnpike is situated, is you just kind of come up like it's almost uphill, and suddenly you're just met with traffic. So it's really backed up, and it's a pain for anybody who's trying to get anywhere in North Jersey. So that's the issue. Now I wanted to dive in a little bit more to it. Obviously, New York City is finally, because they've been trying to do it for years, they're instituting this new congestion pricing law where you're going to have to pay depending on where you go in the city. Now, Bergen County a couple months ago filed a lawsuit. Now, the lawsuit ultimately went away, but they filed a lawsuit saying you cannot do this. There are way too many problems traffic-wise that will be caused. Now, first of all, 2 years ago, the George Washington Bridge in that whole area, so Fort Lee, both in New York and New Jersey, was named the #1 most crowded area of traffic in the United States. And I think an average of 20 miles an hour lower than anywhere else in the state is, or an average of 20 miles an hour lower than the speed limit was how fast cars are going there, simply because of how bunched up everything is. So that would only get worse, is what Bergen County is arguing, because now you have people trying to avoid the Lincoln Tunnel, trying to avoid the Holland Tunnel. How are they going to get into the city then? You have to go on the George Washington Bridge. That means that you now have triple the amount of traffic, not necessarily triple, but you have people from 3 different areas. People trying to go to the George Washington, people who were previously trying to go through the Lincoln, and people who were previously trying to go through the Holland, all going on the GW. That's obviously a problem, because like it just won't work. Like, it's already so crowded, and now you're trying to bring this other factor into it. So that would, the lawsuit says Lyndhurst, Rutherford, East Rutherford, Carlsbad, Woodridge, Hasbrook Heights, Hackensack, Fort Lee, and Paramus would be impacted. Now, notice Lyndhurst, Rutherford, and East Rutherford, those are the same places that are already getting slammed with traffic as MetLife becomes more popular. So just in general, you have this almost all of North Jersey is now suffering from crazy traffic problems. It's becoming unsafe. It's already unsafe. It's becoming more unsafe. And it's a problem that somehow, some way needs to be fixed. This traffic congestion pricing, if you're in the city, you're probably a fan of it. Well, that's not true, because now you have to pay. But I see why they did it. But at the end of the day, I think Bergen County makes a really good case where you might just be creating more problems than solutions, especially on the safety side of things, which is obviously the most important. Morgan on MidKnights. We're going to be back, 107.9 FM, WWPH, Princeton Junction. Stay tuned. See you for more in just a second.
All right, with $1 million on the line, what is the best radio station?
Could I phone a friend?
Sure.
Hey, do you know what the best radio station is? That's easy. The Great 108.
Correct. You just won $1 million. To learn all the best facts and trivia, tune in to 107.9 FM, WWPH, and Princeton Junction.
We all make promises, big and small, tested over time and distance, tried by circumstances and decisions.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I do solemnly swear to bear true faith and allegiance.
To help you when you're in need.
To tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
To be considerate and caring, courageous and strong.
For better.
For worse.
In sickness and in health.
To love and cherish.
To be your loving, faithful friend.
Partner.
Child.
Parent.
Neighbor.
One of our most important commitments is to support our nation's veterans. Learn how you can help a veteran going through a difficult time by visiting maketheconnection.net.
Suck it up.
It's not a big deal.
Snap out.
Just get over it.
We've all heard it. But if you're experiencing extreme stress, it's not just in your head. It can affect your entire body, because toxic stress can hurt us physically without us even knowing it. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, if you're feeling the effects of stress, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
The Great 108. Sports Central.
This is how we're going to end the show today, Morgan on MidKnights. This is a new segment called the Metro Moments, where we go over every single team that made a sports team in the metropolitan area that made waves or news over the past week. So let's start off with obviously the Knicks. They lost last night, Game 7 there. Season is now over. Now, here's what I pray that Leon Rose doesn't do, the GM of the Knicks. So, you could say things went unfortunately in some ways, but the majority of it came from injuries, right? All 5 of your guys on the floor in some way were dealing with some kind of injury, and then you had 3 guys who were really helpful to your team who didn't even play in this series because of the injuries they suffered. What you can't do is you can't chalk this up to, hey, we just didn't have the talent. That's not what happened. And we talk about this a lot, right? When are the Knicks going to make that big splash? I don't think it should be this summer. I think this is a team who, when healthy, can compete with anyone. And the fact that, if you're trying to bring in a Devin Booker character, I think the only thing that does is that makes your team worse. So I'm hoping that Leon Rose stays away from those big moves this offseason. Let's move on to football. Schedules came out this week for the NFL. Jets fans feeling really good. Their team is favored in 14 of their 17 games. Problem, they have 6 primetime games, including 3 in the first 3 weeks. That means 3 games in 10 days. Now, that runs obviously a really big risk. First of all, you have a quarterback who's old, coming off an Achilles injury. He's going to be worked like crazy in that first part of the season. And then you have to wonder, how is fatigue going to play into that towards the end of the season? So Jets fans feeling optimistic, but there is another side to that. Then we have the Giants, who in general, optimism is low. However, schedule could be a lot worse. They're feeling good, especially because their bye week's a little late, week 11, but after that, their schedule tends to be on the easier side, so a really high opportunity there to maybe sneak into a wild card place if they can finish that season very strongly. And then we'll end with the Mets and Yankees, who are just both trending in just complete opposite directions. The Mets continue to look worse and worse every day. It looks like it's going to be another year where you're going to have to sell at the trade deadline. The ultimate question is going to be, do we sell Pete Alonso? Do we trade him away and at least try and get something back for him? Or do we try and re-sign him in the offseason? I say you trade him away. I think that he just hasn't performed to what he can this year, and I don't see that necessarily changing. And I see that, Nimmo and Lindor and a couple of the other Mets players had a rumored meeting over the weekend, according to SNY, saying, hey, we need to turn this ship around. And I think the fact that Alonso was not in that meeting says a lot about his character and his abilities as a leader in the clubhouse, which is more important than anything. For the Yankees, how about you guys? 7 wins in a row. Looking really good. Juan Soto has been everything he's been advertised to be and so much more. The question is, are the Yankees going to be able to extend him? I think they are. I think they're going to stop at no cost, literally no cost, to extend him. I think he's going to be a Yankee for life, and I think he's going to lead the Yankees to championships on championships on championships. And then looking forward to when that Yankees rotation is healthy, they could light up the summer. So if you're a Yankees fan heading into the summer, you should feel really good about yourself. And then, one more thing, I forgot. The Rangers are playing on Wednesday night. It's the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals. They're feeling good. Really big physical matchup about to start against Florida. I think it could go either way. We'll have to see what happens, but lots of stuff going on in Metropolitan Sports this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Morgan on MidKnights. This is me, Julian Morgan, here in the studio, signing off for today. We'll see you next time here on 107.9 FM, WWPH, Princeton Junction. Just remember that this station is the last radio station on your dial, but the first in your heart. We'll see you with more MidKnights, not just me, in the studio tomorrow and for the rest of the week. If you wanted to hear other people talk, you're going to get that chance throughout the rest of the week. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you next time here on The Great 108.